any questions? No? Oh, yeah.
It's too basic.
No, too basic. I'm very simple, so it will help me. Okay, please can you give us a simple explanation for the aggregates? The pumbo de tanda kare.
풍부게 전에 두마봉보라 두마봉 마고스로서
Compounded, okay.
두마봉 두마 배자라 하나는 두마래 두마세야 돼.
Right.
마고스로서 같은 풍부서.
Right. So, dumba means to, like pumbo literally means heap, right? The aggregate, sorry, the word in Tibetan kind of means a heap. So it's like a bringing together, it's like a compounding of these different things. That's what aggregates means, the Tibetan translation, pumpo.
먼저 딜라가 주 풍부서라 주 망외라 주요라
Dre.
on dre 망외라 루스나 dre 풍부서라 돼.
Right. So the word pumpo means heap. So you like a heap, like if you have a bunch of rice in a pile, that's a pumpo of rice. Okay?
말한테 소 풍부들라 소 망고시지 저를 쳐야 먼저 소 풍부져라 차다 루고 땅 샤다 유바다 어디 취당 제대 망고지기야 루체제 아니 차대라 이제랑도 소 풍부라고 그랬어.
Okay, so there's five of these aggregates. Right? So the first one is the aggregate of form, which for a person is your body, basically, right? So the form aggregate, or the body, is made up of many components that are piled together or heaped together, right? So you have blood, bone, mucus, like all the parts that make up your body, right? I'm not a medic, so I don't really know them all, right? But basically all the components that come together to make up your form aggregate or your body, that's the pumpo, or the compounding of the form aggregate. Okay?
맞아. 다단다 네 록슈주루 쉐어라. 록슈주루 시드 당보 도대는 로바슈가 샤드 다 풍고 년에 풍고도 샤고 먼저 대 풍고 때다 녀월렘베 풍고라고라. 녀월렌스데 다 레다 녀모 안게 고야네 양데 겨울에 고요미다 콜라 년에 풍고스 다데 먼저 풍고들 겨 망고게 마 레다 녀모체 단데네가스 샤다 바고다 타다 아니 주제다 닝다 로아다 다 침바다 유마다 망고여와 디제야 루루세시요데 라 년에 풍고스 타고 먼저 란시디 가서 단속에 검자에 막 풍고를 따임바 다 요즘 풍고 차도 바고도 루고도 아니 주제도 아니 거기에 나라 장마비도아
Right. So we say like Nyilin is like compounded. So again, it's that same idea that it comes together from based on causes and conditions. Right? It's a compound of parts and causes and conditions. So these aggregates in this Four Noble Truths in the 16 wrong views is that we see them in the wrong way. We see them as something independent, but in reality they come about as a compound due to karma and delusions, right? And this karma is something we've accumulated not just like in 5 minutes, but through many lifetimes. We've accumulated this massive karma. And also the body is made up of all these parts like blood, bone, mucus, you know, and if we actually were to look inside, like our stomach or something, it's actually a bit gross in there. It's not like clean and beautiful and nice, right? So actually, you know, this word sakcha is like contaminated. It's quite dirty, you know.
미장 때 장마진 거 맞아. 아, 막 통고 빼야고 인스.
Right.
장마
Right.
빼 인스. 아니 에 아주 저거래다. 너구나네 나비야 지마시 보면 민만 자와 좀 아주 칸안에 가마리는 지마서고도
Yeah.
아니 다 나로데 저거 임바디 칠러 통해야 되게 상황. 지마시 부지 민도 장마 저거 얘기해. 공미자와라 장와진 바세 당고디네.
Right. So this is one of the things we see in these 16 wrong views, which is, I guess you guys all got the handout, is that we see the body and the aggregates, we see them as clean when actually they're unclean. Like, as we said, the body's quite dirty, but especially on the inside, but we don't think like that. We go around like, yeah, I'm so cool and awesome, and like, our bodies are so beautiful, but in reality, that's not the case. You know, if we stick our finger up our nose and pull out some mucus, well, that's not that pleasant. You know, we get this kind of stuff that when you wake up in the morning in your eye that's a bit dirty, and then, you know, sometimes you have like that dragon breath, you know, and your breath stinks, and so it's not something that's naturally beautiful and clean. We do our best to try and brush our teeth and clean our ears out to get rid of that stuff, but in reality, it's something that's unclean. But we have this view that it's something that's really cool and awesome and really beautiful, right?
정말 이거다나 toilet이고 compost 하면서 저거지
So actually, when we think about it, our stomach's just like a compost machine.
그래서 이제 어디 비상하래 장하래 비상하래 장하지 때다다요라 아니 직딜라자 데데지 냠네 삼단단 시고라 다좀네데 동해 시고라라데 아주 풍부한 시 미자오리 그냥 먼저 갔다 와서 장하진 거래 아니 이도 뭐가 이발라 이용한다고 왔다 로 차고 제세유라 예 인조 통과라
Right.
뭐야 여기서는 인제게요 말해 소세 셈이 선조를 이제 배 유디 인조게요 말하다
Okay. So, why is this important, right? It's not to think, oh, like I'm gross and disgusting and then stop there. I mean, that's not the point of it. The point of it is to look at how seeing this aggregates or this body, our bodies in this way, is problematic. Well, because this is a source, all our sufferings come from these sorts of wrong views. Like, for example, this idea that the body is something beautiful gives rise to a lot of attachment, right? So we see somebody we think's beautiful and suddenly, well, all sorts of nonsense comes into our head straight away, right? And then it disturbs our mind and we go off and make all these stories and do all these things, right? Because we think that object that we're attached to, that person is physically beautiful, is something there. But in reality, that's a projection of our mind. Our mind's created that story. Because when you actually look at the human body, it's not something that's beautiful and amazing and pure and clean. It's the attachment's all in our mind. Because actually, from the side of the object, it's actually not something that's that attractive and that beautiful. Right. So that's seeing, as translated here, is seeing the aggregates as pure. Okay.
다른 만화도 내가 코에 로다 미가시 내가 만화도 코에 내가 대화시요 말했다. 한국에서 대화이나 아직 내가 기승시야 내가 자매와 아니지 내가 이제 니마토를 주나 디기고신에서 대화 뭐 어디 동해라시 당이 시에서 와서제네 공부도 동해라시라서 동해라시디 아주 대화진겨 대화야 말에 그 직직들 남산 그 유로 남산 동해제 당이 미겸게 이제 나와지고 되는 이제 이제 담아도 건드지 담아 거대요 뭐도 안 해요 이제 더 주어도 이제 남산 당이 주어도서 대화만 봐라 대화지 아니 레다 하나도 레다는 잠블링 미만자 대화만 봐라 대화지 이제 주로 왔다 대화 세배요. 나 대화 많이 이제 대화를 해서 이제 도대기였다. 다 풍고 그런 대회 뭐 많이 봤다. 하다면서 사진 여는 거 공부도 이제 대화 뭐 말에 동해배란 시에 동해들 말에도 그냥 먼저 대화 이해선 대를 빼요. 아, 대화 이해선 대화로 왔다. 근데 뭐에 주도 다다 대고 말아.
Okay. So then we get on to the next one as we see, it's said here, seeing the contaminated aggregates as joyfulness actually. So basically this is seeing unhappiness as happiness. So we have this mistaken idea because actually in reality there's no genuine happiness within samsara, within the cyclic existence. What we regard as happiness is this sort of temporary feeling of happiness, but by nature it's actually suffering. Because, for example, right, we see something as happiness, like let's say we have like a nice kind of tea party or we're down the pub with our mates and we're having a few beers. Like initially this is great, like you're having a great conversation and everything's going cool, but after a while, you know, you might start to get bored and suddenly this person's talking a whole lot of nonsense and they've got really drunk and they're really boring, so you're going to get sick of that situation and you want to do something else. And all our happiness that we experience is like this, it's temporary, so we enjoy something for a while, but after a while it actually transforms into something that is happiness. That is, unhappiness. But most people in this world, we hold these experiences to be something genuine, like some sort of genuine happiness, and pursue it and these sorts of things. So we need to change that view. We need to see it for what it is. We need to see this type of temporary happiness as actually unhappiness, right? And these aggregates, this collection of body and mind, is by nature unhappiness. You know, it's produced from karma and illusion, so it's by nature it's unhappiness. But we see it as some sort of happiness or a source of some sort of happiness, and this causes us a lot of problems.
다들 따봐. 다 풍고디 뭐 미다고래라 상한테. 미다고 깨지 요도 거래. 다들 어지단데 사디를. 야, 풍고디 깨지 요도 거래. 말아도 미망고 하고 따따 맞아 제 가시에 로친주강 빠냐 되기도. 미망 마친주강 그래. 스타가 단데 되래. 요도 빨간에 되시게고도. 이때 라빌라빌에 양아 때 계산게 나 키니베 나 드링아 때 지고지 그냥 징거 생거든. 때 당지를. 근데 당지데 슈청보에는 아니 빼갈래요다. 아니 지 벤조사야 벤조 망보고야. 아니 잘라 망보냐데. 아니 다시야 준 징거 말아. 아니 배시야만 해보죠. 조직 사사사사사사사. 아니 시드더니 참마샤는 또. 어디 대당지 용인 거 당지 공부디 미다고 뭐래 대다고진 거.
Okay, so then the next one is seeing the contaminated aggregates as permanent. So obviously our body and our aggregates are impermanent, right? And it's constantly changing, and technically we understand that, right? Like we can say, okay, we were all a child, and now as we age, our body changes and we change, this idea of ourselves changes. However, what we don't see is this moment by moment changing. Like we hold the person we were yesterday. So on an intellectual level, we can see that, but we actually hold on to the person we were yesterday as being the same person we are today. So we think that we're the same person we were yesterday. And that leads to a lot of problems. That leads to chasing things like reputation, money, trying to collect a lot of stuff for ourselves or our family, our little group or whatever. So it leads to a lot of that grasping, and all the delusions can arise from this. And the reality is, no matter what we attain, money, wealth, success in whatever area, at the time of death, that's all gone, right? When we were all going to die. And when that happens, then none of that's going to be of any use to us. So this view that this aggregates are permanent leads to this self-grasping.
어디로? 디 따와 좀 봐. 당지
Okay.
당지 따와 많이 봐. 따와 좀 돼. 디 원게 동네 용고여다 세우다 동네 먹고 용으로 와디 당지 원게 네 셈베 담보지 가시 맹강난가 대제다 멤베 자요 말을라나 양자 아니 배전식이다. 디디 잘하다. 제가 가서 단다 쓰시다 잠당 가리 핀다고 들어. 근데 메디디 배들에 가서 엄마 여보다는 먼저 기당 시민당도 로주 주들라 치료거라. 그것도 로춘주지나 치료거든. 아니 부트라마도 들어. 부트라마도 강과 이제 부트라마하고라 엔스. 그 이제 제마도도 키 강과로 자 근데 리서치 데디 그 로징이 있잖아. 강과대 식으로다. 안데 처음에 이제 통보다. 부덕에 먼저 부트라마는 통보로. 먼저 부트라마디 그 잡는데 강과 진지자야. 돌아도 니자다. 그 니자. 부덕에 먼저 데려 통보래. 강과를 시켜가지 창사를 시켜고 그걸 직 가가 같이 찍님들로 같이 아니 너네 디고 망고지 사사사 양시
Right.
부덕다는 나도 부터마다 통과.
Right. So the fourth one is that we see the contaminated aggregates as having a self, when in reality they are selfless, or have the absence of the self, which like this grasping at the self is basically the root of all our problems. It causes a lot of suffering, right? It's like in the hospital, people who have like long-term diseases, right? They're constantly, and we're in this case because we've had this self-grasping for such a long time. They're constantly getting treatment to try and cure or just to stabilize the disease, and we're kind of like that. We're constantly trying to work against this self-grasping and trying to work with it. Like as humans, we think we have quite a long life, like let's say 100 years. When we think compared to us, like dogs and cats have a shorter life. Maybe only 10, 12 years. And ants, they constantly working to build something like that. So they'll spend all this time building like an ant hill, right? And then after 1 or 2 years, that'll get destroyed and they have to do it again, and then again and again, and it continues like this. Now, we think, oh, that's a lot of work for a very short gain, right? But from the Buddha's view, we're like those ants. Because we only hold this, we're always chasing this temporary happiness, like trying to get stuff, like we get a house and a car and all of that, collect all the stuff and achieve all these things, and then we die, and then we have to do it again. So for the Buddha's perspective, it's kind of like, we're running around like ants trying to achieve this nonsense, and then it all gets disintegrated and we do it again, and we continually in the cycle.
풍부모디 다도 마도가 당시에서 tension이 다도 마도래. 뭐 사실은 오실의 때니야 저대로. 다 조선 하나도 샤단 차다 빠바단 근데 뭐 오실의 때는 조선. 이나 먼저 간데 징그레스나 해 풍부랍디 단단한 도시 때 야구로 유예되어 있는 거. 단단한 도 샤단 차다 빠바라 마데 파말라 마데니 아니 배 단단한 도시 때 야고지 여산이 지요 신나 직수여제가 이 왕게 다양한 동해 모시도 용어로 단지 진짜 공부 다도 맞고가 다도 저 짐바 단지 디오 로고슈로다 다네가
So by nature or by the essence, these aggregates they don't have a self, they're selfless, right? However, that's not how we see them. So as we said before, our body's made up of blood and bone and all of these things. And, this is all that the body is. But we don't hold it like just that. We're very attached to it. We think, oh, my body's so beautiful, I'm so awesome. And we get caught up in this. And this is because we don't see it as selfless. We see this body as very good because we see it as having some solid self that we can say is beautiful, rather than just seeing it as something selfless. So this kind of attitude is what comes from the self-grasping, this grasping itself.
네 동해는 로고시고라 네 먼저 될라 배나 탭디 봐 탭디 다 딜레라이나 탭디 따와레스나이나 봐 아니 탭디 따와 말해 탭 메다오레 탭디 지가요 미지게 메다자제로 슈그디 메다자스나 탭디 라로라 다 탭 따와레면 또 탭 메다오레지라라 딩인 탭 따와레 탭 지가요 말라이나 얘 라야디 로고 슈스만고 왜 내주디 탭 따고 말해 탭 따고 많이 발라 따고 지모라 아 미지게 다 단도 캐네 마시나 아니 탭디 메다자잖아 탭디 라서
Right.
어디나시 나랑도 풍부티 따고 말해 메다고 레스라고 메다자오나시 다시 두드메시 라투고 말
So yeah, we see so with this 16 aspects of the truth of suffering, when we see these aggregates as permanent, this is definitely not the case. So I guess this is like, if we take the example of a book, right? We say the book's not permanent; it's impermanent, right? Like obviously it's impermanent, and this can be proven because if you set the book on fire and burn it, then it disintegrates and there's no more book, right? We can see that, so we can see that it's impermanent. And if somebody says to you, no, the book's permanent, well, you can prove it to them by setting the book on fire, right? And then there's no more book. So it's the same with the aggregates, right? But, if somebody comes to you and says, the aggregates are permanent, probably not a good idea to set yourself on fire to prove them wrong. Yep.
동해 규메디지 봐. 당어도 다 군중디 동해의 유샤에 봐. 동해 군주라 제견샤에 봐. 군중 제가 유샤인데 다 동해 유여 말했다. 동해라지 유여 말했어. 거라 다도 좋은데요. 거라 유여 말했다. 다 저저 레줄레요 말이라 저저 레고 알아다. 레줄레요 말이라 저저 다 동해를 유여 말라고 알아. 동해는 유여 말해서 유매가 되는데 동해는 유도가 나서 알아서 테니스만 유에 쳐야 돼. 내가 카톡에 유도 미신다가 컨트롤 파내가 제어디 가시게 수수 저는 얘기도 가시하고도 수수 상상 밀파 상상라 삼시도 너게 삼시도 하마고가 너게나 미디 제일 추너게 제디 아 상무단 다등에만 내파 미디를 너거든데 제어다 등에 하마고 됐다 되게 알아 라고로도 삼시 가시에 따라서 학부모도 왔다 저마마 모든 데 미카시에 베심 상고 미야고든 데 여기네요. 콜라 동해 망고 연구도 근데 세 되게 저 말에 그 생각하면 영아마 그 야고지 제 매우 인상 제대로 동해 이제 미고라 단다 야고 채워 되게 저부디 제래 연구라고 봐. 네 하고로 가시에인데 그래 나 내주대 여말 미야고 베버베 삼바야고 여르들 콜 동해 망고 연구도 디 내주대 여말 디 코나 디 게제데 벤 노르스 가르스나 단다 야고 마야디 융아망원도 선도 마마 그 야고 지금 해 단다 미디게 야고 지게요 미디 삼바 상고 야고 저 개와요 지루이나 디 저우디 망고라 연구야 산이나니네 마이고 디 인지미지 삼르난다 샤고레스티
Okay. So then we get on to the origin of suffering and the four aspects of that. So seeing suffering as causeless, seeing as suffering produced by a single cause, seeing them as projected by the whim of Ishvara and others, and seeing them as inherently permanent but temporary impermanent. So the first one of those, seeing that suffering has no cause, basically goes against this is not adhering to this law of karma, action and result. So this, by saying there's no law of cause and effect, then it's saying that suffering has no cause. So sometimes people will inadvertently, unintentionally harm other people, but then Some people that will escalate. So somebody harms them, they'll try and harm them back, and then this back and forth goes, and it gets out of control. But some people who have a little bit more intelligence can actually sort of say, oh, well, this person, they did something that was a problem for me, but it wasn't intentional, or they can see it from a bit more of an empathetic perspective, and it doesn't necessarily become that problematic. And some people who have this habit of, from many lifetimes, this habit of having a calm, peaceful and kind mind, but still now they might have that attitude of being peaceful and calm and helping others, but they experience a lot of difficulties and problems and suffering, right? Now, why is that? You know, it says, oh, some people see this situation, oh, this people tries to help other people, but look at all the difficulties and problems he has. So therefore, like, there can be no law of cause and effect because this person's a good person and bad stuff's happening to them, basically. But it doesn't work like that. It's not like instant, like 2-minute noodles or something. If you create causes now, positive causes now, you will get that result, but it might not be in this life, and it's more likely to be, much more likely to be in your future lives. But definitely the result will come. But, you know, people say, oh, if you do something good and you don't get immediate positive result, then there's no law of karma or cause and effect. This is actually a mistaken view. Those people who practice kindness and virtuous activity will definitely get a positive result. It just may be in a future life.
Oh, shit. How long till you restarting this? 2 minutes. Okay. Now that three, the teaching the show.
Okay.
And after we restarting something like this.
Okay.
So in the Gold Free book on page 200